1937. You were only 12.
I was.
Yes,
I was.
It's amazing.
I was a very small child.
Expedition Amelia 2025, Finding a Legend.
(1937). Remember what was going on in the United States in 1937. We had the advent of Charles Lindbergh. We had airplanes. We had Pan Am. We had Trans World Airlines. We had this whole cadre of air. Heroes were created. Charles Lindbergh. And then you have Amelia Earhart. Amelia Earhart, the first woman to fly across the Atlantic, right? 27,000-mile trip around the world. They get to 22,000 miles, almost there, and then they disappear.
Back then, covering that distance was a feat, especially in an airplane. And the technology was pretty basic. You know, her navigator for that trip, Fred Noonan, had charts. He was the primary navigator for Pan Am. He knew the area really well. Pan Am had these seaplanes, these big flying boats that would move people around over there because that was the way to do it. There were no airstrips or very few airstrips. But he knew the area. He was an ideal navigator. And the other guy that was involved in this trip is a very famed aircraft designer, which is Kelly Johnson, you know, who would go on to do all kinds of amazing aircraft with Lockheed. He actually engineered the Electra so it had tremendous range, this Lockheed Electra that she had chosen for the trip. And so they had the best technology at the time. They did have a, you want to call it a crude radio direction finder where they could home in, and they had picket ships. But the problem was, if you got lost or you had a problem, that's rough country over there. And at that time, you could have ended up as lunch, you know, in New Guinea. And not to mention at sea with pretty much no hope of rescue, or somebody's going to have to trip over you at sea to find you. They might know you're down, but they don't know where you've crashed. And so that sets up one of the greatest mysteries that is still unsolved to this day, is what happened.
Which brings up the other question.
Yes.
They could have gone from airport to airport to airport to airport. It'd have been a bit longer,
right,
but very safe. But instead, what happened?
And nobody really knows. The prevailing theory is she went out into the ocean, got lost, and basically either ditched or ended up on one of those islands out there as a castaway, and eventually she passed away and so forth. But the thing that we're focused on today is 8 years later in the jungle. Now you set the stage, and this is almost out of a movie. There's a long-range Australian reconnaissance patrol on Rabaul. And Rabaul is just off of Papua New Guinea. It's a separate island in New Britain in that area there. And these Australians are going through the bush, and they make contact with the Japanese. And a firefight starts, and the Australians start to pull back. As they are pulling back to try to get away from the Japanese, you have to remember the jungle is really dense over there, very dense. They come across an aircraft. And it's nosed in. There's a hole in the canopy, according to their testimony, and they can't get in the airplane, but somehow they find a data tag on the aircraft and they write it down on their map, and the Japanese are hot on their tail. They think they know where they're at, right? They don't know exactly. They get back to base, and nobody thinks much of it. There's 350 to 500 down aircraft over there, and nobody thinks about it until somebody looks at the number on the data tag, and it's Amelia Earhart's airplane.
But at the same time, you look at the range of that airplane at the time. It could travel 4,500 miles on a full capacity gas tank.
Basically a flying gas can.
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
So they knew that they could make it partway or come on back. The theory that Michael Cara is going on is they decided to come back.
Yes.
And that's where we are now. And that's where we look for another hole in the counterfeit.
Yes.
Expedition Amelia 2025, Finding a Legend.